Recently had a discussion with someone regarding alternative data, and this topic came up of point of purchase and credit card transaction data. Basically, they were asking me, Adrian, you have this platform, Ticker Trends. If you aren't aware of Ticker Trends is an alternative data research platform. So we track different forms of social data, web traffic data, financial data, sentiment data. We track all forms of data related to financial companies. And we then say, this is the outlook on that company, or this is a way that you can analyze that company with this data. They were asking me if this type of data exists out there, such as what the credit card transaction numbers are for a specific brand or a specific company or website or LLC, etc. Why should I ever care about social data, web traffic data, all of these other forms of data? And when I gave my response, it actually they told me that it struck a chord with them in terms of changing their mind on what this type of data is able to do, and why it's more valuable, actually, in my opinion, than these point of purchase transaction data sources. So before I get into the video talking about why point of purchase data is not the end all be all of alternative data, I do want to mention that another thing that relates to alternative data and the Ticker Trends platform and everything that I've been working on is the social arbitrage hedge fund. I am launching a hedge fund, and we'll actually be able to accept investors by the time that this video is out. We have now gone through the entire legal setup process. We're registered in the US and the state of Delaware, although we will be operating out of the state of Texas. We have all of our filings in, regulatory filings, bank setup, prime brokerage. It's been a long process, but everything is now up and finalized for the social arbitrage hedge fund, and we are now accepting investors. So by the time this video comes out, it will be in the very early stages of doing investor outreach, although we do already have capital commitments for the fund. If you're interested in learning more about the social arbitrage hedge fund, which goes much farther into what I'm going to be talking about in this video in terms of creating a profitable investment strategy, then feel free to reach out to us at admin@navtrading.co. Once again, this is a US regulated hedge fund that requires investor accreditation, and you must be a qualified client under the SEC distinction. So as long as you are under those two classifications of investor, which is basically just a net worth requirement, then you will be able to participate in the social arbitrage fund, assuming we decide that you are a person that we want to work with, which, assuming you're watching this video, you are probably someone that is well educated in what we do. So we want to have you on board as an investor. So if you're interested in learning more, email me admin@navtrading.co. But without further ado, I'll get back into why credit card transaction data is not the end all be all of alternative data sources. So this website that I'm looking at here is called alternativedata.org, and they have some interesting statistics regarding what different funds are using in the alternative data world, as well as the alternative data market, how it's rapidly expanding. And that's to be expected with internet and digital data always just growing every single day, and more people, more economic activity is happening over the internet as opposed to in person. But what strikes me here is this chart, these charts of which data sets funds are actually using, or which ones they perceive to be the most accurate or insightful, etc. Here you'll see that by far, if you're going from the metric of point of sale data, credit card / debit card and email / receipt data, these are really the data sets that, if you add those two together, they are by far the majority used data set, or perceived to be most accurate and insightful data set that alternativedata.org is citing here. I think that funds can look at this data set and they jump to a conclusion way too quickly about what this data is telling them. So yes, this data will give you insights, as I mentioned before, to certain revenue numbers in terms of you can bet that credit card and transaction data, point of sale data, will have high correlation to the actual revenue and sale numbers of the company. However, this data is limited in the scope of what it's looking at. Credit card and point of sale data will purely capture the moment that the consumer actually purchases the product. The advantage to looking at social data, but not only social data, any form of data that is outside of the realm of point of sale, is that you can capture that user or consumer or potential client or business ahead of when they actually decide to purchase that product, or work with that company, whatever it may be. When you're looking at other forms of data, they are leading indicators of the point of sale. So when I mentioned this to the person that I was talking to the other day, I think this was really kind of an enlightening moment for them, because they realized that, okay, yes, point of sale data is a data source that's valuable to look at. There's certainly value in it. But in a competitive environment, being equity markets and financial markets in general, you need to have the data set that other investors and other participants in the market aren't yet aware of, right? And with the proliferation of credit card transaction data and the fact that it's so obvious in terms of, well, yes, if there are more credit card purchases, then that company is going to have better revenue numbers. It's very easy for price movements of those companies to move in anticipation of those numbers already coming out. It's already going to be priced into the stock, is essentially what I'm trying to say. Whereas with social, alternative, and other forms of data outside of the point of sale data, you can actually predict before that point of sale data even shows up in those funds' data sets, what people are going to purchase. So let me give you a couple examples here of what I'm talking about when I say point of sale data and where the consumer can be and what type of data you can look at for when the consumer is in that certain area. So this is a little sneak peek of the hedge fund deck that we have for the social arbitrage fund. It's not yet released at the date of this video. However, by the time you're watching this, it may be live on the website at this point. But again, emailing us admin@navtrading.co will be the safest way to get in contact with us to receive this deck and all of the resources that you need to learn more about the fund. But basically what we mention here is you can think of credit card and point of sale data as really the final stage in the consumer purchasing journey or client acquisition journey, when they actually send that bank wire, or when they finally pay that invoice, or when they pay the shopping cart or receipt, whatever they're doing in order to actually purchase the item. Before they do that, they have this whole process that gives you a very high likelihood of what the consumer is going to do before they actually purchase the product. So you have the stage of consumer discovery. This is the stage where people first hear about the product. Maybe it's people talking about it on social media platforms. Maybe it's a trend. Maybe it's a movie. There are lots of societal changes that will cause consumers to discover new things. So that's one stage. That's the very first stage of when a consumer becomes slightly aware of a need or a desire or product or a service that they want. Then they start to research that service. So they're going to say, now that I know I need to purchase something for this, or I need to find a solution to this problem that I have, they're going to potentially research the solutions, the potential solutions that are out there. For example, if I want to purchase a new phone, I'm going to go on YouTube, I'm going to go on Google, I'm going to talk to my friends, and I'm going to see what is the best phone on the market before I make that purchase, before I make that substantial or significant purchase that I'm deciding to make. Finally, I have the point of approval. This can mean many different things depending on the scenario of what the product is. For example, in a business setting, you're going to have the approval of someone else in your business. You're going to have the approval of the consumers for your own product. So maybe you're thinking of purchasing a new form of material for something that you're building, and you need to make sure that your customers are going to be happy with that material first, or that the market will receive that material well. For example, I mean, this is a very specific example, but Apple recently changed the material on the outside of their iPhones from aluminum to titanium. This step of approval, they probably did some level of market research to ensure that titanium would be seen as a more premium material to aluminum before deciding to make that final purchase step. So you can see how for different products and different services, it varies how people go through this discovery and research and approval process, but it is a pretty standard process, and these all are before they all anticipate that final point of purchase. So the point that I'm trying to make in this video, I want to keep it kind of quick and concise, is that point of purchase data is not the end all be all for alternative data, and is actually a lagging indicator when compared to social and other forms of alternative data, such as the data sources that we have on the Ticker Trends platform. The reason why point of sale data is limited is because it is that final stage of when consumers decide to purchase that product or finally pull the trigger on that invoice. And that means that there's a large opportunity for other people to step in ahead of that and anticipate those points of sale, which is where the opportunity opens up in financial markets with this form of data. Again, if you're interested in Ticker Trends or the Social Arbitrage Fund, check out our website, tickertrends.io, or email us admin@navtrading.co. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're interested in similar videos to this, feel free to subscribe to my channel and follow us on Twitter @TickerPlus. I'll see you in the next one.